Part 85. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhenshen. Chapter 841. And the zombie's basically indestructible constitution is also the premise for Xiaoming to perform such a major operation on Zhang Wen. After cutting open his fat belly, Xiaoming planted dozens of sunshine mushrooms in his stomach and intestines. These mushrooms, which originally live in the dark, can generate a large amount of spiritual power when nourished by food. It is very helpful for Brother Wen. Before eating, only half of the operation can be done simply. After eating and drinking, there is still the other half of the operation to be done. Brother Wen, come with me, Green Xiaoming called to Zhang Wen. It is more convenient to perform the operation with this insect king who possesses earth resentment. No, I can't move, hiccup, otherwise, Xiaoming Ming, you can drag me away. Zhang Wen lay on the ground and acted like a spoiled child. Zombies are indeed not easy to die, but it is also very painful when their stomachs and intestines are cut open. If it weren't for the zombies not being able to die, he would have died of pain long ago. This sentence seems to be nonsense. Just now, for the sake of food, Zhang Wen just endured it. Now he is not willing to continue the operation. Brother Wen, you can't do this. The mushrooms in your stomach will continuously supply you with spiritual energy. With your current level of qi training, you can't digest it at all. There must be a channel for storage and dissipation. Otherwise, if you accumulate too much spiritual energy, you will be a piece of fat meat in the eyes of some people or monsters. What if they swallow you in one bite? Ah! There is such a thing. Then I will eat less in the future. Forget it, you should help me with the operation. With the preferential treatment of eating, Zhang Wen didn't want to give up. He was not afraid of pain, struggled to get up, and followed Lu Xiaoming into Guangmingding. The plant props used by Brother Wen must be refined and relatively good. During the construction of X Academy, Xiaoming bought a large number of plant props. The Plants vs. Zombies system unlocks more props. There are more choices. When Xiaoming planted mushrooms or plants on ordinary zombies, he never considered the issue of aesthetics. Practicality is the most important thing. They are all zombies, so what is there to be proud of? But if it is planted on Zhang Wen or other zombie reincarnations, the aesthetics must be considered. This zombie is not that zombie. That reincarnation does not want to go out with a pea cannon on his head all day long, right? At least Zhang Wen does not want to do that. So Zhang Ma, the monster who can control plants, worked with Xiao Lu and Xiaoming to develop an improved plan. In fact, the props originally produced by the system were just models, very small. You can put several in your pocket. Just activate it when you use it. When the plant has used up its own spiritual power and cannot be replenished, it will shrink and eventually become dregs. Zhang Ma's method is to first implant the model into the appropriate position in Zhang Wen's body, such as implanting the pea cannon into the shoulder. When needed, Zhang Wen can activate this prop, and a pea cannon will grow on his shoulder. Because there is always spiritual power replenished in Zhang Wen's body, his pea cannon can continue to fight without shrinking. When you don't want it, just cut it off with the roots and transplant it somewhere else. If it's not convenient to transplant, you can just cut it off and throw it away. We have plenty of props. We can plant a lot of them for Zhang Wen. We can handle multiple battles. When we run out, we can just come back to replenish them. As for Zhang Ma, he doesn't have to go through so much trouble. He can use these props almost at will. The same is true for Xiao Lu. Let's go back to the matter of installing plants for Zhang Wen. First of all, we need to strengthen the defense. Xiaoming implanted several pumpkin set props around Brother Wen's belly. Of course, only one can be activated at a time. The pumpkin sets produced by the system are all the same size, and they can't be like Russian nesting dolls, one inside another, and more than 10 in a row. the defense of a pumpkin set is already good. At worst, if you break one, you can activate the next one. Of course, this also adds some burden to Zhongwen, but for a third-generation zombie, this weight is really nothing. Several props are implanted on the top of the head. You can switch and use them at will. They are leaf umbrella, lettuce, umbrella leaf. The leaves are usually retracted when it is attacked from above within a certain range. It will open its leaves and bounce off the attack like an umbrella. Starfruit, starfruit. It is shaped like a 5-pointed star and fires bullets in 5 directions at the same time when attacking. This plant can only be placed on the top of your head, otherwise it is easy to hit yourself. Even if it is on your head, you can't use it casually. Otherwise, it is easy to accidentally hurt when you are with your teammates. It is only suitable for use when you are surrounded. Lantern grass, it can illuminate the surroundings. It is suitable for use in caves or dark environments. When using it, you need to be careful of enemies attracted by the light. In addition, you need to strengthen the attack. Zhongwen's shoulders are the main combat position. Of course, he will not implant ordinary P cannons. At this time, Xiaoming couldn't help but think of the shoulder cannon of the Iron Blood Warrior. That is much more powerful than the P cannon. After careful selection by Xiaoming, there are 2 types of combat plant props implanted. Ice shooter, can shoot ice peas. If the target cannot offset the ice, it will be slowed down. Dual shooter, double-barreled P can shoot 2 peas at a time, with double the attack power of the P cannon. Friends who have played Plants vs. Zombies know that there is also a more powerful Gatling P cannon, but unfortunately this prop has not yet appeared. Zhongwen has almost reached the limit of controlling so many plants. If he controls more, his own battle will be delayed. So in other parts of his body, Xiaoming implanted a plant that can automatically search for enemies and attack in all directions, cattail grass. It can shoot 2 spikes at a time. The attack power is still quite good. But the price is relatively expensive. The source energy used to exchange for a cattail can be exchanged for 3 P cannons. However, the source energy is something that Xiaoming produces himself. For the sake of his best friend, it doesn't matter if he spends a little more. Not to mention anything else, Zhongwen's cattails that can automatically search for enemies all over his body make him never worry about being attacked. When this item was unlocked, Xiaoming, Kangma and others were very happy. Other plant weapons still need to be controlled or set. Only cattail is an exception. It will automatically search and attack enemies. This kind of enemy is very hostile and will attack the host almost immediately. Although doing so may sometimes seem rash. But the safety is greatly increased. Overall, it is still cost-effective. If there is a situation where you need to play coy with the enemy, just don't activate this item for the time being. After all, the items provided by the Plants vs. Zombies system are only suitable for A-level to D-level battles, and have little effect above sea level. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 842. In fact, Xiaoming has already figured out how to obtain mutant superpowers in a short period of time. This was what I thought of when I was solving a problem for Little Naughty. The problem with Naughty is that she absorbs other people's abilities and energy through contact. Xiaoming planned to use the soul transfer method at that time. Find her a new body without superpowers and transfer her soul to it. How to make a new soulless body? Xiaoming happened to have Avatar's technology and a complete set of equipment on hand. Avatar is also a hybrid body of human and Na6 genes. It is a specially strengthened body. And there is no soul in it, otherwise the original person would not be able to use it. If you simply create a human body, it will definitely not be difficult. It just takes a period of adjustment and experimentation. Unfortunately, there are certain risks in soul transfer, and this method is not suitable for the situation of Little Naughty. So Xiao Ming helped her design a better solution. Everyone is happy. It's just a pity that I couldn't get the superpower. Although the little naughty classmates are not suitable for soul transfer, most mutants should still be suitable. Especially those mutants who do a lot of evil and should be injected with inhibitory drugs to eliminate their abilities. They took a little risk, but Xiao Ming didn't mind. Of course, this matter cannot be done openly. If Professor and the others find out, it's hard to predict what kind of reaction they will have. Therefore, Xiao Ming ostensibly sent 2 scientific researchers to work with the X-Academy researchers to do some relatively normal research on mutants. Secretly, several scientific researchers within Guangmingding are working hard on the project of replicating mutant bodies. To prepare new bodies for these sinful mutants, they don't need to be as powerful as Avatar. In fact, Xiao Ming asked them to study and clone a weaker body to prevent them from doing bad things in the future. Later, the Black Phoenix accidentally broke out and killed Xiao Ming, and he was kicked out of the reincarnation world. Those 2 scientific researchers who were doing serious research were forced to stay in the world of X-Men. Naturally, nothing happened to those in Guangmingding. This research work has not yet been completely completed and is still in the research stage. It's a pity that Xiao Ming has left, and it is impossible to obtain the countless brilliant superpowers in the X-Men. Too bad. The only consolation is that several mutant felons imprisoned in the Bright Dome were taken away from the world of reincarnation. Among them, only Magneto's superpower is somewhat interesting, and it is finally a compensation, and his work is not in vain. It is impossible to keep Xiao Ming busy in Thousand Star Tower. Xiao Ming has made great changes to the world of X-Men, and the reincarnation space has given out good source energy rewards. The 3 source energy trees, silver, green and yellow, have grown by 30 to 50 centimeters. It's just that this kind of growth has little effect on Xiao Ming. With the speed at which Xiao Ming is using source energy, he can't even use up the ones he used before. Now there are even more, but he still can't use them up. It's like a person who has hundreds of millions in savings, but he doesn't have much room to spend money, not even the interest. At this time, the deposit increased by tens of millions, which did not have much impact on him. It's nothing more than having more money and making myself happy. You won't immediately want to spend a lot of money. This is not the character of Xiao Ming, an otaku. Unless he can get to the next level. Look at the reincarnation space of green source energy, the magic planet game of yellow source energy, and the universal transmission network of blue source energy. Source energy can obviously be put to great use. It's just that Xiao Ming doesn't know how to do it now. Between August 8th and August 15th, Xiao Ming's experience in reality and in the game has been mentioned above. Next, let's talk directly about the reincarnation mission at midnight on August 15th. Before this mission, Xiao Ming had already used the space prop 10-person temporary team scroll to bind himself to 9 people including Tan Guangwen. Xiao Ming will temporarily leave Ming Jing's team and join Tan Guangwen and others in this mission world. Of course, the mission is just a cover. Xiao Ming is here to fulfill his promise and strengthen Tan Guangwen's group. Tan Guangwen does have many people he can trust, but this time the reinforcement involves Zhang Xiaoming's big secret. It's not just about trusting yourself. He must also consider whether Xiao Ming is willing to trust him. Although 2 days ago, when strengthening the 2 northern and southern Jiaos, the One-Word King also said that the reincarnation that evolved into the Insect Man would be loyal to Xiao Ming. But Tan Guangwen still didn't want to invite some people who Xiao Ming didn't know to come over. All his cronies are loyal to Xiao Ming, which is easy to say or not. It is certain that some people will not choose to transform into insect humans and will only accept general reinforcement. The 2 Jiaos from the north and the south will resolutely choose to become insect people. That's because their own Cabanelli bloodlines are relatively bad. Restricted their development. Others don't have this weird bloodline. Although the strength is temporarily lacking, the way forward is not cut off. There is no need to be a bug man. If he likes it, there's nothing he can do. Return to the world, Star Legend 1. In the vast universe, a commercial spacecraft named Hunter is heading to the Tangier galaxy. There are more than 40 passengers on board, and 3 crew members are in cryosleep state. An accident occurred on the way, and a swarm of meteors missed the spacecraft. The so-called meteor swarm is actually a small group of rocks floating in space. Because the relative speed of the two sides was too high, the spacecraft collided with the rocks, and the damage it suffered was comparable to being hit by a heavy machine gun. Fortunately, the meteorites that collided with the spacecraft were all small pieces, no bigger than an egg. If there was a large meteorite among them, I am afraid the spacecraft would explode on the spot. The subsequent plot would naturally be gone. In short, the cockpit part of the bow of the spacecraft was pierced by the meteorite, causing considerable damage. The most troublesome thing was that Captain Tom Mitchell was hit by several meteorites in the hibernation chamber, hitting the vital parts and died on the spot. The driver, Caroline Fry, reacted in time and started the program to open the hibernation chamber door. She and navigator Greg Owens were able to fall from the freezer to the floor in time. The hibernation chambers of the New Han Kingdom on Pangostar are all lying down. Even if the chamber door is opened, the people inside have to stand up by themselves. The hibernation chambers on the Hunter spacecraft are all upright. Once the door is opened, if the people inside are not fully awake, they can easily fall to the ground. Such a design, in this critical moment, has achieved 2 goals with 1 stone. First, the 2 people fell down and avoided the meteorites that may continue to attack. Second, the spacecraft was in a special situation just now, and all the crew and passengers were awakened in advance. At this time, everyone was still confused, and the fall made the navigator and the driver sober instantly. The 2 immediately devoted themselves to the rescue work. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 843. The spacecraft was in danger, and more than 40 passengers were woken up by the spacecraft's computer system. There was a transparent window on the hatch in front of each person to observe the outside world. You can see the faces of people in the opposite hibernation chamber. Xiaoming's group of more than 10 people were interspersed among the passengers in 2s and 3s. The alarm of the spacecraft pierced everyone's eardrums. Everyone was panicked and at a loss. Even the experienced reincarnationists were a little panicked. The only advantage was that they did not wake up from cryo-hibernation, and were not in a half-awake state. They soon calmed down. In the spacecraft, some people were shouting loudly, and seeing that the sound seemed to be unable to get out, they punched the window again. Some were more rational and did not smash it, but made various gestures to try to contact the people on the opposite side. More rational people carefully checked the environment in the hibernation chamber. Inside and outside the hibernation chamber, there is actually a manual switch to open the door. It is estimated that they will be out of trouble soon. This world suppresses Xiaoming's strength to about 5th level C. That is to say, this world does not allow individuals above level B to exist. Fortunately, Guangmingding and Kunlun are still open. But Neferpitu, who is level A, is definitely not allowed to come out to play. Zhang Zhou can split out multiple level C clones, but they cannot be combined together. The 3 Xiaoming and Karama are in different hibernation chambers in different human forms. Xiajia squatted outside the door of the cabin as Huang Xiaoming's auxiliary mecha. Circle. Scan map. Both abilities can be used, but the range is limited to about 300 meters. It's enough, Xiaoming immediately understood the situation. Now everyone is in a spaceship. The spaceship was broken into several holes, and the air leaked rapidly. Although the spaceship's automatic protection system was activated, it quickly blocked the gas leak. But the spaceship has deviated from the route. It was captured by the gravity of a planet and fell towards the planet. The bow is the cabin of the Hunter spaceship. Among the 3 crew members, one has died, and the other one, a man and a woman, acted quite quickly. They are trying to rescue. It seems that the fate of the entire crew is now in their hands. Surviving this chaos is probably the main task one. Xiaoming can't see the task, so he can only guess. But this guess is correct. Looking at the life energy of the 2 crew members, their condition is not very good. Xiaoming dare not rely on them completely. Everything depends on himself. Of course, Xiaoming, who is a sea level, will be fine even if he falls to the surface of the planet with the spacecraft. Now he wants to save the entire spacecraft. Substitute technique, Yin Xiaoming appeared outside his hibernation chamber. There was an extra part in his hibernation chamber that he didn't know what it was used for. He reached out and flipped the switch, opening the door of the hibernation chamber opposite. The hibernation chamber not only has built-in switches, but also external switches. The person who came out was Yu Jingjing, the reincarnation who came with us. Thank you, Brother Ming. What happened to us? Don't worry about it, save people quickly. The door can be opened by flipping here, Xiaoming said and demonstrated. Okay, you over there, I over here. Yu Jingjing didn't say much. Immediately, he and Yin Xiaoming split up. The 3 Xiaomings did not intend to recognize each other in front of Tan Guangwen and the others. They just pretended not to know each other and did their own things. Having 3 bodies and souls at the same time is Xiaoming's biggest secret. For the time being, only his sister and brother Wen know it. This matter is really not suitable for Tan Guangwen and the others to know. Huang Xiaoming also used the substitute technique and appeared directly in the body of Transformer Xiajia. Pretending that this is a robot controlled by himself. He stretched out his mechanical arm and forcibly opened the door of the cockpit. He appeared in front of the 2 crew members who looked stunned. Is there anything I can help you with? At this time, the spacecraft was falling rapidly towards the surface of the planet at high speed, and the hull was rubbing violently with the atmosphere, and sparks were flying. And the spacecraft was still rotating irregularly. It was impossible to land in this posture. The panicked female pilot Caroline Fry had already put her hand on a light. Pressing it down would throw away a cargo hold behind the spacecraft. But the door of the cockpit was opened by Xiajia. In this case, the control system of the spacecraft did not allow the cargo hold to be thrown away. At the same time, navigator Greg Owens was also shouting loudly, "No! You can't throw away the cargo. In fact, it doesn't matter if you lose a little cargo. In such a situation, there are insurance companies that are responsible for compensation." Owens was afraid that Fry would get addicted to throwing away the cabin carrying passengers, which would be murder. SXXT. How can we land without throwing away the cargo hold? We will all die. Hurry up and close the door. The female driver turned around and saw Xiajia and the operator Huang Xiaoming inside, and was immediately shocked. FXXK. Who are you? Suddenly she and Owens remembered at the same time, isn't this the passenger who brought the auxiliary robot on board? His robot can help a lot, why didn't I think of it just now? Of course, the space has not implanted the memory into your brain yet. The problem with the spaceship now is that it can't keep balance. In the current state, the balance bar of the spaceship can't be pulled by human strength. This robot came at the right time. Fry and Owens instantly agreed. They pointed at the balance bar and shouted, "Hold it!" Xiajia rushed forward and controlled the balance bar. The Hunter spaceship actually began to recover its balance slowly. Even if the mecha was strong, it would not work so quickly. Both crew members shouted impossible. Of course it was impossible, if Green Xiaoming had not run outside the spaceship to help. Under the pressure of space, the physical properties of the three Xiaomings were reduced to the level of advanced level 5. At this moment, there was no phenomenon that the Insect King was stronger. However, the Insect King had a special skill that neither Yin Xiaoming nor Huang Xiaoming had. After absorbing the life essence contributed by Yupi and Pufu, Zhang Zhong obtained Pufu's ability, and the Insect King obtained Yupi's ability. He can grow more limbs from his body. And they can be of various shapes. Green Xiaoming climbed out of the spaceship, first fixed his body and the spaceship firmly together, and then instantly opened 7 or 8 new wings. It is not accurate to say that it is a wing. In fact, it is more like a parachute-like membrane. It is equivalent to Green Xiaoming adding several parachutes to the spaceship. Because the landing speed was too fast, the parachutes were blown up by the airflow one by one, and blood and flesh flew all over the sky. Xiaoming was not discouraged, and he stood up again one by one, and repeated this process over and over again. Finally, the spacecraft stabilized at a speed visible to the naked eye, and finally hit the ground at a not very high speed and at an angle of 15 degrees, raising a large cloud of dust. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 844. The spacecraft miraculously landed safely on the surface of this unknown planet. Except for Captain Tom, who was killed by a meteorite at the beginning, and 3 passengers who were accidentally stabbed to death by sharp objects when they hit the ground. All the rest of the people on the Hunter survived miraculously. Everyone praised the driver Fry, the navigator Owens, and the robot driver Huang Huang Xiaoming pseudonym. This is a life-saving grace. It doesn't cost money to say a few more good words. No one knows that the real hero is actually the Insect King who used his body as a parachute outside the spacecraft to ensure the smooth landing of the spacecraft. Now his pseudonym is King Lu. In other words, Huang Xiaoming and Lu Xiaoming are actually one person. Since everyone expressed their gratitude to Huang Xiaoming, they also thanked Lu Xiaoming at the same time. During the landing process, many parts of the spacecraft were damaged. Preliminary analysis shows that it will take more than a week for the repair time to recover the spacecraft. Although there were few passengers who died, there were many injured. Among them, several passengers were seriously injured and had to hurry up to receive treatment. Fortunately, most of the supplies were still there, but they were scattered on the route where the spacecraft glided when it landed, and it would take some effort for everyone to pick them up. The biggest problem at present is how to survive on this planet for a week or 2. Fortunately, the atmosphere of this planet can allow humans to survive normally and is non-toxic. Otherwise, it would be difficult for everyone to survive even for a day. It's just that the oxygen content in the air is a little low, and many people have difficulty breathing. This is easy to do. Spacecraft usually store a considerable number of oxygen masks and oxygen tanks. You can carry a small tank on your back and take a breath occasionally. It is relatively easy for the Hunter spacecraft to make an emergency landing on the surface of the planet. If you want to take off from the surface of the planet, that would be a big problem. Not to mention that the spacecraft was covered with wounds, it is not known whether the remaining fuel is enough. In the original book, the forced landing process was very tragic, and only 10 people survived the entire spacecraft. Only 3 people managed to escape the planet in the end. If only a few people survived, they could fly away in a lifeboat. Now nearly 40 people have survived, and 1 lifeboat is obviously not enough. We must find a way to get the Hunter to take off. Xiaoming did not expect that his act of saving people and the ship would actually increase the difficulty of this mission several times. When everyone learned that they had survived, they were first happy and excited to thank the heroes who landed safely. Then they soon fell into chaos. There were more than a dozen injured people, although most of them were lightly injured and had skin injuries. They looked bloody and scary. These people all needed treatment. While their relatives and friends helped stop the bleeding, they shouted loudly for the crew to provide medical treatment. Seeing that the two crew members were really busy, they searched everywhere for medical treatment. Crying, shouting, groaning, rummaging, were heard all the time. There were 2 or 3 passengers who knew a little medical skills and hurried to help. Some of the passengers who were not injured were helping others, while others were looking for their belongings. Some people went to the cargo hold to look for their luggage, and some even tried to steal things. It was a mess. There were also a few passengers who had business to do. Some of them were checking the damage to the spacecraft, while others were observing the situation around the landing site. If there was life on this planet, they would need to consider the existence of carnivores, which might pose a threat to their group. However, if there was life, food, water, and supplies could be replenished. If there was no life on this planet, it would be even more troublesome. The entire spacecraft was full of people, in a mess without any order. Fortunately, there were reincarnations among the crew. Tan Guangwen's group accounted for 1/4 of the total personnel. If Xiaoming and his followers were included, it would be close to half. Together with the few people who had business to do, the situation was quickly under their control. Among them, the large number of reincarnations played the greatest role. The 2 crew members often shouted and were ignored. But after the rebirthers gathered, few people dared to ignore what they said. Humans are such realistic creatures. Tan Guangwen did not have the resources to form a team recognized by the space. So the people below him were all rebirthers like Lone Rangers. As Lone Rangers, rebirthers had to know a little bit about everything. Especially in emergency treatment. You know, they are not the rich rebirthers like the Shen family and the Li family. If they are injured, they will directly use the props of the space. As long as there is no fierce battle next, even injuries such as fractures will be treated by themselves. Try not to use space props. It doesn't matter if you get hurt in the rebirth world, you will be fine when you return to the settlement space. If nothing happens next, or if you sacrifice, you can save the props for this treatment. So sad. Similarly, almost all Lone Ranger rebirthers can use firearms, drive vehicles, and have some ability to survive in the wild. Of course, the average quality of this batch of people is a bit poor. Because there are many new people this time. Xiaoming originally gave the temporary team scroll of 10 people directly to Tan Guangwen. Except for himself, Tan Guangwen contacted everyone else. This time, more than half of the 9 people including Tan Guangwen are newcomers. What is he doing? Actually, it's nothing. For example, the 2 Chiao sisters in the north and south have already been strengthened, so there is no need to occupy the quota this time. Some other people that Tan Guangwen knows but Xiaoming is not very familiar with, Tan Guangwen also deliberately avoided. For example, Sidu Yuxuan. So the previous acquaintances came, Tan Guangwen, Yu Jingjing, Yao Jie, and Yang Yang. For the other 5 quotas, Tan Guangwen actually found 5 high school classmates to fill the gap. The reason why Tan Guangwen dared to recruit newcomers directly is still the special nature of his own ability to read. His circle and condensation can see through people's hearts to a certain extent, and the people he finds are generally not bad. 2 days ago, when participating in a special mission together, he cooperated with the clones of the Yulanling combination. At the same time, he also met Zhang Xiaoming himself. This made Tan Guangwen feel that the 3 of them were lucky. The clones are so lucky, how can the real ones be good? So Lao Tan spent a little more money and found the whereabouts of the 3 people on Pangu Star. Using obscure language and generous salaries, he recruited 2 of them, Ganlin and Wu Ling. Gu Yao was unmoved. The other 3 boys recruited were also newcomers, Lu Yunxiao, Wei Yunyu, and Sun Yungsu. Like Ganlin and Wu Ling, they were temporary reincarnations, and this mission was their novice mission. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 845. Lu Yunxiao, Wei Yunyu, and Sun Yungsu were all high school classmates of Xiaoming and Tan Guangwen. At that time, they did not have the word Yun in their names. It is said that they were enrolled in the same master, so the disciples of the same generation had to add the same word in the middle of their names. This generation used the word Yun. Xiaoming looked carefully and found that there was no fluctuation of spiritual power or signs of internal power on the three people. I wonder what they learned from their master? The three of them, plus Ganlin and Wuling, are all temporary reincarnations. This time, the team is also their novice task. This is the first time Xiaoming knows about this operation. Tan Guangwen also has his own considerations for finding these people. The former subordinates all worshipped Zhang Xiaoming, the Grand Master of protecting the nation and the king of one word. They have seen too many miracles. Most of them will probably choose to become insect people. In this way, although the strength of the subordinates is greatly enhanced, it is inevitable that they will be completely controlled by Zhang Xiaoming. Old Tan can basically trust Xiaoming, but he also knows that many people do not betray just because the price has not been reached in the mall. If the enemies of the Tan family spend a lot of money to win over Xiaoming, or send out powerful reincarnations to threaten Xiaoming, it is unlikely to expect Xiaoming to fight to the death and not betray him. So he decided that not all his subordinates could be subordinate to Xiaoming, and at least he had to have another team of his own. That's why these 5 new people joined. The 5 of them didn't know Xiaoming's character and strength, so they didn't trust and admire Xiaoming. They probably wouldn't choose to transform into insect people. Doing so is beneficial to the Tan family and Zhang Xiaoming. It reduces the chance of falling out in the future. Omega, it has to be said that Lao Tan is preparing for a rainy day, and it's not a groundless worry. The only thing he doesn't understand is that Xiaoming is now in contact with top forces like the Li family, and the opponents of the Tan family are not qualified to do anything to Xiaoming. Xiaoming saw Tan Guangwen's mentality of gain and loss very clearly through the 7 Yao Shadow clone, and he could understand it. As the successor of a force, Lao Tan must be responsible for the family. It is too extravagant to trust an outsider completely, and it is not allowed. Since he understands, he will not be angry. On the contrary, Xiaoming will automatically help Lao Tan achieve this goal. In the end, only Yeji and Yu Jingjing chose to accept the insect evolution needle. Others just accepted the life essence and super seed package. Tan Guangwen originally practiced telekinesis and is currently a D-level reincarnation. Now he has been caught up by Yeji, Yu Jingjing, Qiao Zionan, and Qiao Ziobei. After discussion, Xiaoming greatly enhanced Lao Tan's total telekinesis and total magic power. In addition, he also gave him a basic microcosm. Forget about other domineering, spiritual power, and force. The difficulty is a bit high, and Lao Tan is difficult to master. Moreover, if he bites off more than he can chew, if he learns everything, he will be distracted everywhere, and his future will probably be completely ruined. Just by this simple improvement, Tan Guangwen's strength is already very close to sea level in Xiaoming's opinion. With his own efforts and talents, he will probably be able to reach the sea level before the end of this mission. With a group of D-level assistants, the strength of the Tan family may make a qualitative leap. Yang, Ganlin, and Wuling obtained basic telekinetic seeds, and their bodies were also strengthened. Tan Guangwen can just be a master and teach them to practice telekinesis. Lu Yunxiao, Wei Yunyu, and Sun Yungsu strengthened their bodies and obtained the seeds of the microcosm. Whether they will be bronze or gold in the future depends on their personal efforts. Xiaoming only opened up a direction for them to move forward. If they are not planted with super-powered seeds, it will be difficult for them to develop. You know, they are now middle-aged people in their 30s. Their potential has been almost explored. From a probability point of view, in an ordinary high school class, the number of people with good talents is still limited. Xiaoming's class has already produced many talents. It seems unlikely that another batch of talents will emerge. Only by obtaining superpowered seeds can the impossible road ahead be pried open a little bit. Boss 10, I have fulfilled the previous agreement. How is it? Didn't the money go in vain? I tell you, I am absolutely reliable in doing business. After strengthening everyone, Yin Xiaoming teased Lao Tan in front of everyone. Yao Zhe and other acquaintances felt a little strange. This kind of behavior of seeking credit was not like Xiaoming's character. But they didn't say much. Tan Guangwen had been thinking about these things, and now he understood what Xiaoming said. He is worthy of being the Grand Master of protecting the country, king of one word that he personally conferred. So kind. My buddy pushed the credit of strengthening everyone onto himself. Lao Tan couldn't help feeling a little embarrassed, but more grateful. Others saw clearly his little thoughts. Not only did they not blame him, but they were also willing to cooperate actively. Tan Guangwen raised his thumbs and praised, nothing to say. Awesome. National Master V587. As long as you are satisfied. I have nothing to do with this. I will take my leave now. This mission is up to you. After saying that, he nodded to everyone, put his hands behind his back, and walked away in his slippers. Yao Zhe and Yang Yang wanted to keep him, but Xiaoming seemed to be very slow, but in fact he walked a long way in just a few steps. They wanted to shout but found it was too late. Tan Guangwen said, "We have already caused a lot of trouble to the Imperial Master. We can't rely on others, right? We are all different now. If we still can't pass the mission, we won't be able to see the Imperial Master in the future. Brothers and sisters, cheer up, we must make achievements to show to the national teacher. Assign tasks below." Hearing this, everyone nodded vigorously, and the improvement of everyone in the team was very obvious. Several newcomers suddenly turned from ordinary people with no power to extraordinary beings. The combat power suddenly doubled several times. Everyone is full of confidence in themselves. I believe that this task cannot be difficult for me. Among the 9 people, the ones with the greatest appearance changes were Yao Zhe and Yu Jingjing, who were transformed into insect humans. Yu Jingjing is a woman, and Xiaoming gave her dragonfly genes. I hope she can properly develop the corresponding abilities and become an investigator in the team. To make Zhe a man, Xiaoming gave him chameleon blood. I believe it is not difficult to gain invisibility. He can be the assassin in the team. In the world of full-time hunters, chimera ants possessing these 2 genes shine in battles. Xiaoming wanted to try it and see how far it could go on humans and insects. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 846. The planet where the spacecraft landed was very interesting. Soon after landing, everyone discovered that there were 3 suns rising in turn on this planet, so that there was no night on the entire planet. Under the continuous scorching of several suns, the surface of the planet was barren and a desert. It seems that there is no Haoye here, otherwise it would be fine to shoot down 2 suns. Female driver Fry took 5 or 6 passengers who knew about mechanical repairs to work inside and outside the spacecraft. After all, repairing the spacecraft was the top priority. Huang Xiaoming was driving the auxiliary robot, Xiajia, in the eyes of others and was doing hard labor for them. Some larger and heavier things required several adults to move together, and Xiajia went over and lifted them up with just one hand. Such an excellent labor force, naturally everyone would not let it go. At the beginning, Huang Xiaoming took the initiative to command Xiajia to take action once, and as a result, everyone was no longer polite from then on. Fortunately, there were not many such jobs, and many jobs inside the spacecraft actually required delicate operations. Soon Zygia was free. Although Zygia could actually do it more meticulously than human hands, he learned his lesson this time. Since no one asked, he didn't say anything, so as not to be forced to work as a long-term worker again. Huang Xiaoming sat in Zyijia's body and carefully scanned and observed the structure of the spacecraft. Being able to use the method of freezing crew members for interstellar flight, the cruising speed of this spacecraft should not be low. At least it can fly at sublight speed, which is worth learning from. Outside the spacecraft, there is a bounty hunter/mercenary named William Johns. His combat power is about level 3, which is one of the most powerful humans except for the reincarnation. He led 7 or 8 passengers to conduct exploration work around the spacecraft. The Tan family team also left the main force to explore in another direction under the same name. After strengthening, it is really necessary to go on a field investigation. As a bounty hunter, Johns carried firearms on board. Now he generously took them out and distributed them to everyone. He only kept 1 or 2 weapons with the most powerful firepower. This move won the favor of most people. At this time, everyone will feel very safe when a few of their own people hold firearms. The remaining people were all led and deployed by the navigator Owens. They also had work to do. The spacecraft carried a lot of goods, which needed to be carefully sorted by humans. Of course, the personal belongings of the passengers could not be moved, but supplies such as food and drinks needed to be distributed collectively. In this desert area, it is necessary to plan the diet reasonably to maintain the lives of nearly 40 people. They also set up a shed to block the sun so that everyone can work in turns, and everything is arranged in an orderly manner. Inside the spacecraft, there was a person chained. He was an interstellar wanderer and wanted criminal named Richard Reddick. He was the prisoner that Owens was chasing and escorting. It seemed that his strength was slightly above Owens. According to Owens, this person was very fierce and brutal, and he must not be let go, otherwise everyone would be in danger of their lives. And Reddick's eyes had undergone surgery, so he could see objects clearly in the dark. But when the sun was shining, he needed to wear sunglasses. Otherwise, his eyes would be easily injured. This made most people stay away from Reddick. Few people dared to run in front of him. There was only one tomboy in the team who was very interested in Reddick. She always looked for opportunities to talk to Reddick, which gave several leaders a headache. In Xiaoming's opinion, Owens and Reddick had similar life energy. They both had innocent lives on their hands, so it was hard to say who was better than the other. But since Owens only intended to bring Reddick to justice, Xiaoming was too lazy to bother. His mind was focused on the place dozens of meters below his feet. Just when everyone's footsteps had just stepped on the planet, Xiaoming's circle and scanning map had already gone deep underground. There were huge and complex underground passages tens of meters below the ground. This was still normal. A rocky planet would always have this kind of structure. But the passage was full of a carnivore that looked like a pterosaur, which was terrible. The strength of this monster was about 2-3 levels. It had 2 legs, 2 claws, and 2 wings, and it seemed that it could fly. But what the hell was it that a flying creature drilled into the ground? Why were there so many of them? Xiaoming has seen hundreds of them in a small area. There must be hundreds of thousands of them on the entire planet. Without food, how do these terrifying carnivores survive? In the blink of an eye, Xiaoming's mind was filled with questions. Logically speaking, since such advanced carnivores have evolved, there should be low-level animals on this planet that can be used as food. Ecosystems are generally balanced, and the number of carnivores is always much smaller than that of low-level animals. Otherwise, they cannot survive. Even if there is a mass extinction, these high-level animals usually die. Low-level animals survive. However, now there are almost no creatures on the entire planet. Only these carnivorous monsters are left. This is too strange. With their fighting power, it should not be difficult to eat people. There is new food today, why didn't the monsters rush out of the ground? Oh, it turns out that they are afraid of the sun. This answer is easy to find. As long as you see the monster's action pattern of avoiding the sun, it will be clear. But there are more problems. A planet with so much sunshine can evolve such advanced creatures that are afraid of sunlight. It's really weird. Fortunately, everyone can live in peace with them. If they rush out in large numbers, it would be difficult for anyone to resist. The combat power of a single monster is actually average. Johns and Reddick are basically evenly matched with them one-on-one. With guns, they can easily deal with 20 or 30 monsters. But facing thousands of monsters, they can't hold on for long. Even after the reinforcement of Tan Guangwen's team, the strength of several newcomers is about the same as Johns and his team. But it's only about the same in attributes. They have almost no combat experience. In a real fight, whether it's a monster or these two, killing them is basically as easy as killing a chicken. The space will suppress the highest level of reincarnations to sea level, probably because of the large number of monsters. Xiaoming himself is fine. With high defense, it's easy to find a corner to defend and ensure his own safety. It's not that easy to protect all the passengers. We have to build a fortress. Fortunately, these monsters are afraid of light and never come out of the ground. Just pay a little attention, and this matter can be left to the Tan family team to deal with. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 847. Regarding the estimation of the world of reincarnation, Xiaoming is still too optimistic. According to the nature of the world of reincarnation, there is bound to be a battle between the human passengers of the spaceship and the unknown monsters underground. Otherwise, why are these monsters designed in the world? The only thing that is uncertain is the method of fighting. Which party holds the initiative? This is very important. If humans rush underground to fight monsters for some reason, then the initiative is still in the hands of humans. You can advance to attack and retreat to defend. If this kind of monster rushes out of the ground like an undead natural disaster, then humans will be in big trouble. Although Xiaoming underestimated this matter. But it should be said that he will not be lazy. Soon he quietly told Lao Tan the news that there were a large number of D-class monsters underground. Since you and I are stronger than the monsters, they will probably rush out at some point. After listening to Xiaoming's words, Tan Guangwen guessed. Lao Tan takes this matter more seriously than Xiaoming. After all, it concerns his subordinates. This mission is a novice mission for the 5 newcomers. If the temporary reincarnator loses in the novice mission, then the matter of becoming a reincarnator will come to nothing. It is unknown whether he will be drafted next time or when he will be drafted by the reincarnation space. You might miss the opportunity to enter the reincarnation space forever. So after hearing the news that there are a lot of monsters underground, Lao Tan didn't care much anymore. I solemnly ask Xiaoming to help. Of course it's best to do it secretly. Tan Guangwen said worriedly, Mingzi, even if we haven't seen the night yet, it doesn't mean that there will never be night tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, the day after tomorrow. Who knows how the planet here works? Maybe there will be a dark night every 3 days, or maybe a dark night every 6 days. Otherwise, this mission would be too simple. What he said makes sense. There are too many monsters underground. As long as there is one night, those monsters will come out in full force. Humanity must suffer great losses. Even if it doesn't last long, a few temporary reincarnations might be sacrificed. But Xiaoming has another opinion. When I made an emergency landing on the spacecraft, I put in a lot of effort. It was extremely difficult. Otherwise, when it hits the ground, not even 10 people on the entire spacecraft may survive. Therefore, Xiaoming felt that the difficulty of the first main mission was already high enough. Future tasks shouldn't be too difficult. However, This was Xiaoming's misunderstanding. Main Mission 1 seems very difficult. In fact, the space did not intend to make things difficult for reincarnators at the beginning. As long as the reincarnator comes out of the dormant chamber and takes certain self-protection measures, he will basically survive miraculously. Xiaoming doesn't need to do so many things. The sea-level reincarnators had no ability to save the ship, with the exception of Xiaoming, the cheater. Xiaoming spent so much effort, but the people he actually saved were actually NPC passengers. This certainly adds a lot of points to the task completion, but it does not reduce the difficulty of future tasks. In fact, the planet only experiences a solar eclipse every 22 years. Don't ask, the next solar eclipse is coming soon. Each solar eclipse plunges the planet's surface into darkness for a long period of time. It's definitely not something that can go away in a short while. The long darkness was enough for the monsters to wipe out all humans except Xiaoming several times. Xiaoming and Tan Guangwen both underestimated the difficulty. Although Xiaoming underestimated the difficulty of the task, since Lao Tan asked him to do it, of course he had to do it beautifully. At this time, Xiaoming has two choices. One is passive defense, and the other is proactive attack. Xiaoming thought about it and decided to give full play to his advantage of having more people and strength, and do these two things together. And do it quietly. Fry, you guys are busy first. There seems to be something wrong with this robot. I'm going to find a place to repair it. If you need anything, call me. Huang Xiaoming shouted this to Fry, who was still debugging the spacecraft. Okay, thanks to your robot's help just now, I shouldn't need it now. If you need our help, just ask, the beautiful driver replied politely. It is impossible to object to this kind of thing. Both parties were just being polite. After saying goodbye, Huang Xiaoming drove away in Xiaojia with a buzz, bang sound. A few hundred meters away, a section of the warehouse was thrown away during the emergency landing and was severely damaged. Now everyone has abandoned it? Xiaoming used this section of the warehouse as a cover. Pretend to be repairing the mecha inside. He was actually using alchemy to build an underground fortress. His strength was suppressed to sea level, including mental strength. Not only is the range of scanning the map limited, but the effect of alchemy is also greatly weakened. In its heyday, Xiaoming could build an underground fortress over a cup of tea. There is no way, in different worlds, Xiaoming has already built countless underground bases. Xiaoming has this unique ability to turn any fighting world into a real-time strategy game. The world of X-Men he experienced last week is still under construction. The technology in this area has long been familiar. It's just that with the current level of mental power, Xiaoming can only build a small underground base. It will also take more than 10 hours to complete. The walls and door panels around the base must be made of the strongest alloy. Those underground monsters obviously know how to dig holes. At the same time, the base should be equipped with enough light sources. It is so simple to deal with monsters with fatal weaknesses. This time it is for short-term use, and there is no need to consider the situation after leaving. Xiaoming chose the hacker energy block system. In addition, in order not to expose too many cards, Xiaoming does not plan to use the props in the Plants vs. Zombies system. For the defense of the base, energy guns can be used. Anyway, the enemy's body is not so strong, and guns are enough. If there is really danger, let Xiao Lu extend a few vines covered with pea cannons from the bright summit. She herself is a legion that Xiaoming carries with him. As Xiaoming's eyes and ears, Zhang Ma mixed in the group of passengers, doing some trivial things, and observing the changes in the situation. Silver Xiaoming and Green Xiaoming split into two groups and began to encircle and suppress monsters in the underground passage. There is no need to fight hard against these guys with such obvious weaknesses. Xiaoming used hacker energy to make hundreds of simple, strong, and super bright fluorescent lamps. There was no need to fight the monsters. He sent dozens of shadow clones into the cave, carrying a large number of fluorescent lamps, and quickly passed through the monsters, throwing them casually. He waved his sleeves, leaving no trace of clouds, only fluorescent lamps along the way. The monsters in the underground cave cried for their parents. After all, the cave was narrow, and Xiaoming threw too many lamps, so the monsters had nowhere to escape. They could only turn into corpses in the dazzling white light. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 848. Xiaoming did not kill all the monsters in the nearby underground. Of course, he could do it, but he just didn't do it. He left a few small groups of monsters to practice with the reincarnationists, and he was also worried about the main task. If the situation arises that a monster must be killed, wouldn't their task be completed if they don't leave a few small groups? The nearby underground was cleared, but I don't know how many such monster groups there are in other places on this planet. Green Xiaoming came to the underground in person. While releasing the death harvest, the large pieces of decayed corpses were harvested into the breath of death. Because the corpses were too decayed, the undead materials such as bones and rotten meat could not be obtained at all. It just so happened that Xiaoming had no interest in such dead bones. Using this thing to summon skeleton soldiers and zombies, isn't that a joke? Xiaoming spent a lot of time cleaning up these monsters underground. On the ground, the reconnaissance team led by bounty hunter William Johns found an abandoned camp. In the original book, this camp was the main activity area for the survivors of the spacecraft. Because the spacecraft was too badly damaged during the forced landing, it was impossible to repair it. There were only 10 survivors left, 4 of whom were children. Fry, Johns, and Reddick were among them, and Owens died during the forced landing. They found some useful things in the wreckage and took them with them, and then set out to find a place to live. It is very difficult to find a place to live on such a desolate planet. It is good to find a cave. It all depends on whether God gives face. It must be said that their luck is quite good. After passing through a cemetery of giant beasts, they actually found a camp where humans once lived. There are not only tools and houses here, but also solar-powered cars and a small spaceship. This small spaceship has become their only hope. Of course, before they start the spaceship, the night that comes once every 22 years falls. The monsters rushed out of the ground, and the survivors were scheming and fighting each other. In the end, only Reddick, an old man and a child were able to escape. The rest of the people, including the beautiful pilot, died tragically. In this life, due to the efforts of the Insect King, the Hunter spacecraft was not seriously damaged, and most of the supplies carried were preserved, so everyone used the spacecraft as a camp. The only team that went out for reconnaissance was a team of less than 10 people led by Johns. Their original purpose was to see if there was any life on this planet. It would be even better if they could find food and water. When passing by the giant beast cemetery, they found countless huge skeletons as big as houses. Before these creatures died, they were probably comparable to the giant dinosaurs in the history of Pangustar. However, they are now cold, leaving only huge skeletons for people to watch. Just looking at the bones, it is hard to say how long ago these monsters were creatures. Under the skeleton, a passenger found a human toy, indicating that humans had been here and even lived here. Everyone was shocked, and soon they found this long abandoned camp. By following some mechanical traces, everyone cheered loudly. But they didn't know that Xiaoming's shadow clone was quietly following behind this team. He saw all this. Unfortunately, this world limits Xiaoming to only sea level. The 7 stars shadow clone is B level, and Xiaoming can't summon it. He can only use ordinary shadow clones. Moreover, the use distance of the spiritual kingdom is also limited. Xiaoming doesn't know what the shadow clone sees now. There is no other way, the shadow clone has to cancel its own existence and pass the news back. Green Xiaoming, who was harvesting underground, immediately turned and moved from underground to the direction of the camp. The camp is a little far from the place where the spacecraft landed, and Xiaoming's work of clearing monsters has not extended so far. So a new expedition began again, and 10 shadow clones moved at high speed along the tunnel towards the camp, continuing to spread fluorescent lights to clear monsters. Behind, in the tunnel where the monsters had been completely eliminated, there was no need for so many fluorescent lamps. Xiaoming collected about 70% of them along the way. Leaving 30% was to prevent the monsters from reviving and occupying this tunnel again. The fluorescent lamps left behind could at least ensure that the monsters would not dare to approach again for decades. After eliminating a large number of monsters, Xiaoming cleaned up the underground part corresponding to the abandoned camp. He also added a lot of death breath to Guangmingding. At the same time, he also discovered the true ending of this camp. There were a lot of human skeletons scattered in the underground passage, and one passage was directly connected to a closed and solid warehouse in the camp. There was no one in the warehouse. According to Xiaoming's estimation, it should be that after the monsters appeared, the survivors of the camp hid in this warehouse. All the doors and windows were sealed. Hope to survive the night. Unexpectedly, these monsters would dig holes and dig passages from the underground to enter here directly, turning all the survivors into midnight snacks. At this moment, Johns gathered all the members of the reconnaissance team in this warehouse to plot something. Green Xiaoming, who didn't want to be brought underground, heard everything. "William, none of us can fly a spaceship. Will your plan really work?" a voice asked Johns. "Don't worry, I know someone who can fly a spaceship, and he will definitely be willing to go with us," Johns said confidently. "Who is it?" "Reddick." "Reddick? Are you kidding? He is a murderer." "Are you sure?" When they heard that it was this wanted criminal, many people expressed their incomprehension. "Of course, one of his crimes is that he stole a spaceship after killing someone. He is a wanted criminal. I let him go as a condition, how could he not agree? Alas! This spaceship is really too small, seeing that everyone seemed to be hesitant." William sighed and said in a compassionate tone, "We are not abandoning others and escaping alone. After we get out, we will seize the time to ask for help. This is the only way to really help others." "Yeah, William, makes sense." "That's right," several people echoed in unison. Everyone felt very comfortable listening to this excuse. Human beings are such creatures. As long as there is an excuse, they can do anything bad. Conscience is worthless. "Remember, this matter must be kept secret," Johns added solemnly. "If people knew about it, there would be internal strife and fighting, and we don't know how many people would die. We are doing this for the sake of the overall situation." "Understood, received, understood, okay. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 849. Pa, pa, pa. In a dark corner, the sound of applause suddenly rang out. Wow, led by Johns, 3 long and short guns pointed at the same time. "Who's there? Come out. Believe me, you don't want to shoot me." The people inside were still at ease. "Then you won't have a driver." A pair of pupils flashed silver light, and slowly walked forward from the darkness, and Reddick's sturdy figure appeared in front of several people. What he was eavesdropping on in this warehouse, Xiaoming deep underground, had already observed with Circle. "But I didn't expect that Johns and his team didn't check the warehouse carefully before talking about the secret. Maybe it's because they haven't seen any living people so far." "It's okay." Johns was the first to put away his gun, and at the same time signaled his companions to put down their guns. "Now that I need help from others, it's meaningless to point guns at them. Then he asked Reddick, "How did you escape? I remember you were handcuffed very tightly." Reddick smiled but did not answer. He retorted, "I thought only a murderer like me would be so selfish to escape alone." Tisk, tisk, tisk. He made a mocking sound and said, "I can't believe that a good man like you, John, with thick eyebrows and big eyes, would do this." When he said the word good man, he emphasized the tone. How did the locked Reddick escape? At that time, Huang Xiaoming saw it clearly with circle. It was indeed a bit incredible. His hands were handcuffed by John's, handcuffed behind his back, and put on a pillar in the spacecraft. However, there was a broken gap at the top of the pillar. Reddick stood up straight, put his hands together and stretched them straight, and lifted them up from behind, letting the handcuffs pass through the gap and fall back in front of him. With the human body structure, his shoulders would be dislocated several times during this process, and the pain was definitely unbearable for ordinary people. Not to mention that he dislocated his own joint. So Xiaoming didn't care about his escape at all. This was an opportunity he won by his strength. Xiaoming could only admire him. If it were Xiaoming, he would definitely not be able to do this. Of course, Xiaoming had other ways. A substitute technique could get rid of the handcuffs. Johns, who was ridiculed, blushed and opened his mouth as if he wanted to explain, but stopped. He also knew that those high-sounding and beautiful words would not work with Reddick. He would only be ridiculed more fiercely. So he asked directly, "Are you joining or not? Give me a straightforward answer." "I'm a bad guy, of course I will join this plan." Reddick shrugged and said it very easily. Hearing that he was willing to join, everyone in the room breathed a sigh of relief. If he refused to join, the whole plan could not be promoted. Maybe there would be a fight. Along the way, Johns boasted about Reddick's strength. Indirectly, he overestimated his own worth. After all, Johns was the one who caught Reddick. But there is a side effect that several people in the reconnaissance team are very afraid of Reddick. If a fight really breaks out, several of them may run away immediately. Johns had been worried about this problem before Reddick agreed to join the gang. Fortunately, Reddick joined happily as he thought. He even took the initiative to deliver the goods to the door. There is no need for Johns to run back again. On the way to the spaceship together, Reddick came up to Johns and whispered provocatively, "If I don't agree, what will you do?" "You can try," Johns bluffed. He is also a ruthless person. If necessary, he can kill everyone to cover up his secrets. Then you have to keep your eyes open. It will be an interesting journey next. Reddick meant something. Several people went to check the small spaceship under the cover of Xiaoming's circle. There is nothing wrong with the spaceship, but it lacks the energy battery used by the spaceship, so it can't fly. How to solve this problem? A passenger asked. It's simple. If you are short of batteries, you only need to get 4. You all know where they are, Reddick said with ease. One passenger responded quickly, "You mean, there are some in the spaceship?" "Of course, where else can it be?" Reddick asked with a smile. "Haha, you won't be unable to do it, right?" Several people looked at each other. In fact, several people agreed to steal the energy batteries of the spaceship, but no one was willing to say it out loud. After all, if the batteries were stolen, the Hunter spaceship would probably not be able to fly. Those dozens of people would be trapped on this god-forsaken planet. Indirect murder. It's one thing for them to run away quietly, but it's another thing if they stole the batteries of the spaceship and made everyone else unable to run away. This kind of thing is easy to say but not easy to hear, so it's best not to say it from your own mouth. Just as several people were giving way to each other, King Lu, Green Xiaoming, walked over from a distance dragging 6 energy batteries. "Hey, guys, I found these things from this camp, count me in as one." With a whoosh, 3 or 5 more guns were pointed at King Lu. Reddick had performed the same trick before, and it was almost a repeat of it. In fact, there was no choice. The ending was already determined, and there was a new member in this escape team. These energy batteries are actually the batteries in the Hunter spacecraft that have run out of energy. Xiaoming can just use them to refill the energy. Johns and his team can certainly kill this man directly and steal his battery. Whether they can beat him or not is not the point. But doing so will easily cause the team to lose morale, which is not conducive to the next space journey. Besides, Johns and Reddick are both masters. They can vaguely feel the extraordinariness of this Chinese man. Although King Lu seems to have no flesh on his body, in the eyes of the two, he is more terrifying than a beast. Reddick eavesdropped on their conversation when the reconnaissance team did not find him at all, and showed up at the critical moment. It is enough to prove Reddick's strength. Now King Lu can copy the same thing without Reddick noticing, which naturally proves King Lu's strength. This team was originally a situation where Johns and Reddick were in opposition and on guard against each other, and something could happen at any time. Now there is one more master, and it has become a three-legged tripod. This has become more stable. If anyone wants to attack someone else, they must consider the reaction of the third party. No one dares to act rashly, which is the best result. 30 minutes later, the night that comes once every 22 years has not yet fallen. Under the posture of Reddick, the spaceship, carrying 10 people with their own ulterior motives, flew out of the atmosphere of this unknown planet. Flying to the mysterious space. Magic Planet Online Game. Author, Lanzai Cai Shi Zhen Shen. Chapter 850. Xiaoming deliberately let Johns and Reddick go. Although they are selfish and have bad character. However, this is the most common choice for people in distress. After all, they are just a group of ordinary people. Their behavior is naturally immoral and not recommended. But it is also not worth Xiaoming to punish them. As for actively providing energy batteries to help them escape from the planet, it is to reduce the trouble of others. If they don't get out quickly, they will definitely find ways to steal the batteries of the spacecraft, which will inevitably lead to conflicts with the remaining survivors. Both sides are armed with guns, and it is estimated that many people will be killed and injured. Maybe 1 or 2 new reincarnations may be killed. Xiaoming weighed it in his mind and decided to let these people leave quickly. When flying away from the surface of the planet, Green Xiaoming used the mist hiding technique to cover up to prevent the spacecraft from being seen by the survivors. It created an illusion that this group of people just disappeared. This situation certainly caused a commotion among the passengers and made them more honest. They hid in the survivor camp around the spacecraft and didn't dare to go out casually. Didn't you see it? That group of strong and armed people never came back. The danger outside is probably extraordinary. The reconnaissance team is fine, but Reddick, the serious criminal, is also missing. He is likely lurking nearby. This is also a time bomb. Originally, everyone's mentality was the world is so big, I want to see it. Now it has collectively become the world is so dangerous, I want to stay at home more. We ordinary people should stay at home honestly. This is the voice of many passengers. It was not until the reincarnations of Tan Guangwen's team came back that everyone felt a little relieved. At least this group of people did not encounter danger. They can still provide protection for the survivor camp. After Johns disappeared, Owens was temporarily regarded as the leader of the entire camp. The Tan family team also clearly supported this plot character. Under the panic of the people, no one came out to make trouble at this time. After Owens and Tan Guangwen discussed, they decided that everyone should focus on defense at this stage. Let's not do the investigation for now. We'll wait for 2 days until people are at peace. But will the reincarnationists really be so honest? Of course not. The disappearance of the 10 good guys was a big blow to the passengers. But in Tan Guangwen's opinion, it was a rare opportunity. The reincarnationists were here to cause trouble. If everything was calm all day, How could they cause trouble? If they didn't cause trouble, where would the reward come from? In addition, Xiaoming had told him about the underground monster group. Tang Guangwen made what he thought was a more reasonable judgment. Johns and his group must have accidentally entered the underground and were drowned by the sea of monsters. These unlucky kids. The reconnaissance team actually found an abandoned human camp, found an empty spaceship, and flew away directly. No matter how big his imagination was, old Tan could not have thought of such a truth. So most of the Tan family team stayed in the camp to calm people's hearts. Yeji, who had obtained the blood of the chameleon insect man, had a certain stealth ability, and he quietly ran out to investigate. I hope he doesn't run underground. Xiaoming shook his head and ignored it. Yeji is already a formal reincarnation, so dying once is not a big deal. Bang, 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 the door was knocked, and then a person pushed the door open. Mr. Huang, are you there? It turned out that someone found the cargo hold where Huang Xiaoming and Xiajia were. At this moment, Huang Xiaoming's real body was building a fortress 10 meters underground. But there was a shadow clone above to replace Huang Xiaoming. No one would find out. Oh, it's you. How is the spacecraft repaired? The shadow clone smiled calmly at the visitor. It was the beautiful pilot Caroline Fry. As soon as Fry came in, he saw 4 children playing around Huang Huiwang's auxiliary robot, climbing up and down, touching here and there. He couldn't help but smile knowingly. It turned out that he was not the first person to come to Huang Huiwang. This group of naughty children came earlier than him. It is rare that Mr. Huang has such a good temper that he lets children play with his beloved mecha. Xiajia is a transformer, and there is actually nothing to repair. Xiaoming's shadow clone is just a show. When 4 children in their teens came to play, the shadow clone pretended to have repaired it and let them play with it. Mecha is the fantasy of all boys, especially in this era of advanced technology. Xiajia looks very advanced, and the adults are still worried and dare not disturb it rashly. The children are so-called, they come when they want to play. Among the 4 children, there is also a little girl who shaved her head and pretended to be a boy. In the original book, this little girl named Jack was very interested in Reddick. She is also one of the 3 people who survived to the end. However, in this reincarnation world, Reddick's brilliance was completely overshadowed by the giant robot. Now Jack is more curious about Huang Huiwang and Xiajia. She is a self-acquainted person and the first to come to disturb Huang Xiaoming. This child had no elders around her, and was probably an orphan. Xiaoming didn't find her annoying, so he let her play around him. He also let her crawl around Xiaojia and touch everything. Children tend to gather together, and soon the other 3 children came. Seeing Jack having so much fun, they joined in without hesitation. Xiaoming still didn't care at all, and Xiaojia was depressed. When Fry came, he saw such a harmonious picture. Well, it's okay. It should be done in a few days. Fry perfunctorily said a few words before remembering the business. He whispered to Xiaoming. The problem now is that the energy battery is not very sufficient. And we have to consume energy all the time when we camp here. So. Hearing her hesitant tone, the shadow clone guessed a little. So, when the spacecraft is repaired, we may not have enough energy to take off, right? Yeah, Fry nodded solemnly. I came here to ask you, this robot is also a big energy consumer. You should have spare batteries, right? Yes, but the battery model may be different, right? Xiaoming was naturally willing to help. He casually raised a question. When Xiaoming said there was one, a smile immediately appeared on Fry's face. That's good, the model must be different. But there is an energy transmission device on the Hunter spacecraft. Do you want to give the battery to me? Or let me do it myself? You send the energy transmission device and the battery without energy, and I will charge it. Okay, it's a deal. Don't worry, after we get out of trouble, our company will compensate you several times. Fry left happily.